この手を握っているのに、いつおみさんの手のひらの上にいるみたいで、余裕を見せられると余計にドキドキしてしまう。なんで。
Du bist süß.
Episode number 3 of A Sign of Affection. And if I asked you, did you squeal this episode? And if you told me, no, I didn't, I'll call you a liar. That's right. Like I went, oh, like honestly, it probably wasn't like that. Okay. It probably wasn't like that, but I did audibly squeal at least like twice this episode, because there's just like these genuine moments that this show has, and it's just like it's so good, right? Like you have this dude, you know, grabbing our girl, and I should probably like I should probably learn their names. We have Yuki, and then whatever the hell this 𝐜𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥, whatever his name is. We have 𝐜𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐽 grabbing Yuki by like grabbing her right here by the chin, pushing her chin up, grabbing like just these like things that he's doing, right? And he grabbed her by the head and he brought her into his chest, and he grabbed her hand. He's like, I get it. Like, yeah, I hear you. You know, like imagine like squeal moments. I'm telling you, like just imagine like, you know, from her perspective, like put yourself in her shoes, you know, even if you're a man or whatever, like put yourself in her shoes. Like you're conveying something, and you know, she's deaf, she doesn't speak, so she doesn't have like that audible part of her. And someone to be like, you know, she was like more, you know, she was like trying to like reach all the way up here, which is so adorable and cute, by the way. But then he grabs her and he's like, I hear you. Like, oof. Oh Lord. Like, it's just so good. And you just have like those moments over and over and over again, and she keeps describing it of like, you know, her heart's fluttering, and you know, some would say he has me wrapped around his fingers. And you know, when you think about love, especially like, you know, in her case, you know, essentially what you have to imagine is first love. But let's just say love in general, right? Let's not, you know, single it down to first love, but just think like love in general. Like love is being wrapped around the other person's finger, and it's a two-way street. If it's a one-way street, that love doesn't work, but it's a two-way street. And you know, I'm thinking about it like in the real world, and that's just really how it is. It's like you know, love is like you know, my wife texts me right now, and she was like, hey, you know, move your chair over to the left. Now, after, I might be like, well, why? But love is, you know, it's, would moving it make her happy? Let me just do that real fast. You know, it took no effort. You know, it took nothing for me to do that, right? And you can insert this moment or that moment, or you know, you're up, hey, grab me a Coke, grab me a water or something, right? Grab me a beer. Or, you know, what are you doing? Oh, you know, just playing games, come see me. Or, you know, like you can insert so many different scenes. Love is being wrapped around the other person's fingers, and it's a two-way street. So she describes it as such, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And there's no harm, there's no foul, and there's no anyone who says that's not the case. It's lying, you know? And I love that she describes it that way. And this anime has such real world writing to it. It's Yuki asking Itsumi at the end of the episode, right? Like, who was that girl? And he was like, oh, she's just a friend. And and there's two things. It's A, she pays more attention to mannerisms and things more than other folks do, because she's deaf. So it's like a secondary skill to have, like another sense to have, that she pays more attention to folks' mannerisms, the way their body moves, the way that their hands move, the way the gestures, because she can't hear, but she can see, so she can kind of take in a lot of cues through that. And the other part is she's a woman, so typically women have way better senses, just at these kind of romantic things than men do. So she's like, hey, who's that friend? He's just a friend. And she was like, she doesn't think about it that way. And I was like, oh, snap. And part of me was like, he was like, no, she's just a friend. And part of me was like, oh, well, she was close to him, but maybe she's just the other dude's girlfriend or something like that. But then it's like, well, why wouldn't Itsumi's friend, the one who works with him, why wouldn't he just say, oh, that's his girlfriend, like they're just close because they've been friends since middle school or high school or whatever. So it's like, so why wouldn't they say that? It's like, oh, well, he didn't say that because it's not the truth. And immediately Yuki picks up that, like, she likes you, bro, like, you know what I mean. And then the tables were flipped, right? Because then they have a conversation, and he was like, oh, who was that guy who was signing with you, who was that dude? And she was like, oh, he's my childhood friend, he just happened to learn sign because his sister was learning sign, which we could be like, bullshit, like he learned sign because of you. He didn't learn, he might have like used an excuse like, oh, his sister was probably learning as well, like an ACL class or something like that. But like, no, he learned sign because of you. And obviously, as men, we know we got the dog in us. It's like, we know that he knows, like, no, he learned it because he's after you. Now, he might not be that forward type person. He might try and like, he might think time will just make these things happen, like continue to be, like stick with her, be friends with her, stuff like, and the natural time thing. But immediately our boy could pick it up. He's like, yo, who's that guy? She's like, oh no. And then she was like, oh, well, he started learning in the 2nd grade. You know what I mean? And he's been bullying her a little bit, but he cares for her. He sticks close to her. He watch out for her. So it's obvious to us. So as the show goes on, we're going to have this Emma girl on one side and this Ost dude or something, whatever his name is, on the other side. And then we're going to have the two in the middle who are just, falling in love and stuff. And, there's so much other stuff that happened in this episode, but him, willing to learn sign and her writing a book, the cutest book ever, the cutest notebook ever for sign language. And then him going like, oh, I can read it, but I would rather just learn from you. Like, let's meet and you teach me, cute. Her teaching him the sign for love. And then, him going like, oh, I need to use that soon. She's like, on who? And he's like, well, I love to do this, love to do that. And she's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's cool. And then the promise, like, oh, just so much. Oh, there's just so much. Like, I can't spend the whole time talking about it, but there's so much good. And it's such a good show. It's so well written and it's realistic. And that's why I like it too. Like it's realistic. The part that isn't realistic is him constantly backpacking and going and doing all this other stuff. Like, you don't got what your little bar job gonna, okay, that's all BS, but the rest of it's pretty good and pretty realistic. So love this show. Really, really good. And again, it got me to like audibly squeal and have like those really like cheese moments, as I'm watching, and that's what makes it good. All right, I think I'm over time. Let me know what you guys thought. Again, you might not feel any of these ways. Also, before I forget, the other really cool thing about the show is I love how sign is a world language, and one of Itsumi's cravings in life is learning about everything outside of Japan. And what's more outside of Japan than a language that can be used around the world? Anyways, okay. Let me know what you guys thought about this down in the comments below. If you hated it, let me know in the comments why. I get this not for everybody. You might not like it. It might not be tickling your fancy. That's completely okay. Let me know if that's you in the comments. Tell me why. See you next weekend. Peace.